I've been making YouTube videos for a long time. The ball got rolling back in 2009 when my then closest friend turned 13 and we created an account called H-Bomb Crew. It was meant to be a joint account where we both uploaded videos, but I wound up being the only one that used it. Then in 2012, when my family moved to a different state, I decided to create my current account largely to avoid complications should I wind up losing access. Considering how long I've been making videos, it should be no surprise that most of my work has aged like a corpse. But there is some past work of mine that I still feel holds up. And since I've been feeling nostalgic lately, I'm gonna go ahead and list off my favorites. Everything is up for consideration here: the countdowns, the YouTube poops, the Mugen matches, and anything else I've made on this channel. Let's say we just get right to it. In retrospect, I'm kinda surprised the Mugen bug bit me again because my interest wound up subsiding even faster than the last time I was making these videos. Maybe it was the tedium of constantly trying to find new stages and characters to download, or maybe it was the fact that Mugen hasn't had a decently sized YouTube community for well over a decade, but regardless, I've lost interest again. But out of the matches I've uploaded, there's two specific matches that really stand out to me, and here's the first of them. Considering how long I've been talking everyone's ears off about Lunar Silver Star Story, I feel like the fact that I did a Mugen video containing one of its characters would be an interesting enough hook. And I know I already said it in the original video's description, but it bears repeating just how bizarre it is that this thing is the only character from this game that I could find in Mugen. To my knowledge, Alex hasn't been brought in, Luna hasn't, Nash hasn't, Galleon hasn't, but you know who has? The first boss. Wrap your head around that. Anywho, the reason I'm proud of this match specifically is because of how utterly broken this character is. Picture in your head what it's like going against the cheapest fighting game bosses out there. That's what it's like trying to beat this thing with a normal character like Zero. In fact, this video shows the very first time I've ever beaten the Salen Slimer with a normal character. It quite literally took me years to accomplish that. I know a lot of my viewers probably don't care about Mugen, but if I were to recommend any of my Mugen videos, this would be it.
Cause when I ring the bell, you go to hell. Everybody smile, please.
Oh hey, it's the most recent video I've made. Now there are a couple things in this YTP that I think could have been improved. I probably should have focused less on the title screen and more on the far more visually engaging parts where Rap Rat's actually involved. Along with that, I feel like the sentence mixing is a bit choppy at times. But on the other hand, I feel like most of the jokes still work, especially the bit with the rated G card. I had so much fun making that part. Whenever I finished one joke, I'd come up with another and just crack myself up all over again. The stinger at the end with Smile Dog was also great for me because it was a joke I had in my back pocket for years. I'd posted it on Twitter once, but I was waiting until I made another actual video pertaining to creepypastas before I'd actually use it on YouTube. This video holds up quite nicely, though it does serve as a reminder that I really have room to put the work in next time I wind up making a YTP. Speaking of YouTube poops made from creepypastas, you know how most YouTube poops make their jokes by splicing words people say? Well, it's kinda hard to do that when your source material doesn't have any dialogue at all. And yet, I still made one of my best YTPs from a video where no one says a word. I'm not sure how much making a YTP from a wordless video means to anyone else, but I'm quite happy with myself for pulling that off, especially considering the video is precisely as long as it needed to be. And I even managed to weave in a dirty joke using one of the video's sound effects. Billy Mays is unquestionably my favorite YouTube poop source. Above all other sources, the ones made from his infomercials were what inspired me to start making YTPs of my own. And even going back to my old account, the best Billy Mays YTPs I ever made were all connected to a series of collaborations that Nash Metal 100 made over the years. But again, we're just focusing on this account's videos, so we're gonna stick with my entry for the third collab.
Billy Mays back to make you my bitches again.
You sick fuck.
I feel like part of the reason I enjoy making Billy Mays YTPs so much is that the abundance of material from him makes sentence mixing easier, which is especially good when you're trying to go a bit more out there with your jokes as opposed to having everything be crass and profanity-laden. For instance, I came up with a segment in this video where Billy chases down an imposter, and it was pretty heavy on the sentence mixing. I don't do a lot of visually demanding stuff in my YTPs because it doesn't fit my style, and more importantly, I'm lazy. But I still feel like I painted a good enough visual of just some sentence mixing and some cop car footage. The rest of the video's jokes were pretty solid too, especially that opening bit that really pulled off feeling like a grand comeback for not just my own Billy Mays YTPs, but the entire collab. Oh, and I also got to make a jab at those annoying ass chain letters people spread. Remember folks, superstition sucks, Eartha Kitt rules. When I watched the finished collab, I noticed how long some of the other entries were, and that did kind of make me feel like I made this video a bit too short, but the whole video still worked out great. If you're wondering why there aren't that many countdowns on this list, the reason's quite simple. All but one of them were made when I was still a teenager, and it shows, especially with how I delivered my lines. I still feel like the writing and editing has held up for most of them, but I did quite often succumb to some of the more regrettable trends the Countdown community indulged in back then. I think I can sum it up with one of the best witticisms I ever made on Twitter. My legacy on YouTube was defined by me phoning in anger over some obscure RPG villain from the 90s. But if you had to ask me the best Countdown I made back in the day, my answer's an easy one. Top 5 worst mechanics.
Finish him!
You're going down, son.
A lot of the best video game countdowns from all those years ago came from people bringing in fresh ideas. To me, the idea of a worst mechanics video hits the right sweet spot of being universal enough for all gaming fans, while still being a relatively unique and unexplored topic. When else would I get to talk about a throwaway mechanic that only popped up in a single Mario Kart game while also digging into universally hated mechanics like random tripping and auto balance? And the fact that I got to cap the list off by examining one of the most reviled video games ever made was also a plus. That being said, I feel like this would probably be up a spot or two if it were a proper top 10 rather than just a top 5. Oh well. I always make sure to be honest when I come up with these lists, but sometimes I do get that it can be a bit monotonous. I mean, there's 4 YouTube poops on this list.
Prepare for down count.
5,
And now,
blast!
Honestly, out of all the YTPs I've ever made, this was the one where I was truly firing on all cylinders. The flow of the video was smooth, the jokes still hold up great, the sentence mixing was good, and in general there's next to nothing that I would change about it if I were to redo it. Strangely enough, this video wound up getting age restricted, whereas all my other YTPs that also have a good amount of dirty jokes haven't been.
Run!
I guess that's all the more reason for me to try to get y'all to go back and watch it. I'm certainly not complaining about it, but I still can't help but wonder how these became my most viewed videos. I mean, my Keifi remixes are child's play compared to most other YTPs, but then again, maybe their simplicity is why they've done so well. I mean, everyone recognizes O Fortuna, whether they know the name or not, and apparently the Keifi commercials have a strong enough following for this video to get over 100,000 views. And everyone also recognizes Down with the Sickness, so that worked perfectly too. And honestly, even without taking their relative success into account, I'm still quite happy with these 2 videos. Maybe I could try capitalizing on their success again. As you might have heard me say before, my number 1 interest is no longer video games, it's metal. So it's honestly kind of surprising to me that I've done so few videos on the topic, especially so few pertaining to extreme metal. Even stranger than that, a couple of the few such videos that survived centered on a band that isn't all that indicative of my tastes. Today, I'm going to take a look at an amazing band that you've probably not heard of, September Morning. Hold up, it's playing an old song, let me put a new one on. My analysis on why their music works so well for me is pretty short and to the point in these videos, and it probably could have stood to be a little more thorough, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other improvements that could have been made. But the big reason I'm so proud of these videos is that the first one specifically led to me actually becoming friends with the band. There are tons of relative unknowns that I'm a big fan of, but how many of them would actually recognize me on a first-name basis? How many of them are people I'd feel comfortable enough to ask if they'd be interested in doing session work for my own musical projects? They're still good friends of mine even years later, and the fact that it started with me sending them a quick little video I made kind of amazes me to this day. I still feel like I should do some more music-related videos to better showcase my taste, but for what it's worth, these two videos still hold up, with or without the impact they had on my life. Alright, real talk here. Both of the top two on this list originated from me wanting to undo mistakes I'd made in the past. Case in point, my return to countdown making. More often than not, there will be a time where the lackluster programming completely screws you over in some way, whether it be blowing an opportunity for you to gain momentum or winding up on the brink of death because several minions targeted you at once. This video was honestly everything that I wish I was back during the Countdown community's heyday. Everything about this was 10 times sharper than all my other countdowns. The delivery, the writing, the jokes, the analysis, the editing, everything. Considering the changes that had been happening with my hobbies and my personal life since the last time I made a countdown, the fact that I still had it in me to make this video is honestly kind of surprising. But then again, I suppose it does come a little easier when a pandemic was messing with all your other hobbies. And it probably also comes easier when you want to distance yourself from the half-baked complaints you've made in the past about certain characters. Obviously, the video's not perfect. Some of that old-school overraging started rearing its head in the last couple segments. I wound up using watermarked footage for the giant Goomba segment and didn't notice until it was too late. Also, I probably should have replaced Whitney with the Pokemon Yellow version of Brock. Zach Ward should have been bumped up a spot or two, but whatever. Even with all that considered, this video has still set the standard for whatever I make from here on out. Alrighty, time for some honorable mentions. Top 50 fatalities, the longest countdown I've ever made. It does get repetitive, yes, but I'm still proud of this one. Top 15 Avenged Sevenfold songs. This was the first music-related video I made, and it's one where most of the analysis still holds up. But unfortunately, you can't watch it anymore because the copyright Gestapo struck it down. Sorry you didn't appreciate the free promotion, Warner Music. Get fucked. Top 10 Team Fortress 2 maps. I'd say this countdown had some of my sharpest analysis, but considering it came out a decade ago, it probably could stand to be updated. Especially since I gave the #1 spot to a beta map that never got properly released. The Scorpion vs Naruto Mugen match. Somehow, I managed to escape a move that's practically an unescapable one-hit KO. That alone made this video worth it. Angry Video Game Nerd defies all rhyme and reason. This video was very stream of consciousness because I had a tight deadline to upload it by, and the end result definitely holds up. Nanner Piss takes a leak on Pan Island. I'm quite happy with my effects work for it, but not so much with some of the sentence mixing. A testicle pilot spills something other than his guts. Honestly, I'd say this video is the unofficial number 11. I feel like I really wrung every good joke I could out of all the sources I used. The Spirit of Vengeance's holiday advice. I feel like 15-year-old me might have been onto something with this sketch. Maybe I should do a remake when Christmas time rolls back around. Fun with the Rancho Relaxo and Kazatsky kick.
Laugh Riley.
Watch the head humpers, Gordon!
Immature humor is forever. The short answer as to what sets apart one specific video of mine out from the rest is that I replaced my worst video with my best. Oh, what's this? It's my old Lunar review? Man, that was such a good video. It totally deserves to be re-seen again and again by the public, and totally deserved to exist in the public circle. Deleted! Oh, that felt great. Alright, I'll give you the long answer. Even before I made my first review of Silver Star Story, I'd spent a long while extolling its virtues to all my friends, so when your biggest inspiration for video making thinks it would be a good idea to give it a full review, what are you gonna do, dispute that? That was a great idea. The problem was that 15-year-old me was too focused on complaining about trivialities to actually review the fucking game and explain why more people should play it. Which was, you know, the whole point of making the video. All it ever did was make me look like I didn't have a clue what I was talking about. So after years of the original review lingering like a bad odor, I finally hit my limit, deleted it, and remade it. The new review is less intricate and less heavy on humor than my least favorite bosses list, but it's at number 1 here because of how cathartic it was to make. Everyone who knew me back then knew how much I loved this game and how badly I wanted more people to play it. That first video certainly wasn't going to convince anyone, but with this one, I feel like any viewers that aren't familiar with the game might be more interested in giving it a chance. And now that we finally got that re-release, I'm all the more glad the original review's been replaced by a better one. Now there is one glaring mistake that I made in this video. Any moments where the game does start to become cheap wind up being done fairly quickly, including the biggest example, which just so happens to be the final boss. I said including the biggest example when I should have said except for. And just to clarify, the final battle does not end quickly. Most Dream Theater songs don't last as long as this game's final boss does. But aside from that, I've got nothing but pride for this video. I feel like I finally did this game justice. So what's the point in hearing me ramble about my old work? I'll tell you. Whatever you make, whether it be YouTube videos, art, music, or whatever else, there's inevitably going to be something that you look back at years later and cringe at. Nobody bats 1,000. But that's alright. All those things that you look back at unfavorably are just stepping stones to making something better. So just keep doing what you do. Huh, it's not every day you get to be deep, huh? It's a bit of a weird feeling. Oh well. Cue the outro!